At first light on July 1st, 1863, the hills around Gettysburg were still. A summer fog clung low to the ground. Church bells rang out softly, unaware that by sundown the town would be echoing with screams. Confederate soldiers marched in from the west, dusty and drawn, searching for shoes. They didn't expect Union cavalry, but they met them just outside town, along McPherson's Ridge. The first shots cracked like distant thunder, and then the sky seemed to fall. Reinforcements arrived fast. The 11th Corps, the Iron Brigade, the Stonewall Brigade. Men ran toward the smoke. Officers shouted orders drowned out by gunfire. Civilians cowered in cellars. Some watched from rooftops. They didn't know this would become the bloodiest battle ever fought on American soil. By midday, chaos ruled. Soldiers bled in the streets. Horses panicked and trampled the dying. Houses became makeshift field hospitals. The Union line bent under pressure, retreating through Gettysburg. Men tripped over the bodies of their friends. They rallied again on high ground, Cemetery Hill, Culp's Hill, and a gentle rise called Little Round Top. That night, as campfires flickered across the hills, both armies dug in. Union soldiers carved trenches into the rocky hillsides. Confederate pickets watched from the shadows. And in the stillness between skirmishes, surgeons worked by candlelight, sawing limbs from groaning men. July 2nd began with hope. It ended in horror. Lee ordered a flanking maneuver, an attack on the Union left. The sun bore down on Devil's Den, a tangle of boulders and scrub. The fighting there was savage. Men fought hand to hand. A Confederate was bayoneted through the throat and died with his eyes open. A Union sharpshooter bled out behind a rock, still clutching his rifle. At Little Round Top, the 20th Maine was nearly overrun. Out of ammunition, they fixed bayonets and charged down the hill, one last gamble that somehow held the line. Below them, the wheat field ran red. The peach orchard became a killing ground. Soldiers slipped in blood and mud, falling atop the corpses of men who had just been alive. On the right flank, Union troops clung to Culp's Hill through the night. They repelled wave after wave, rifles glowing hot in their hands. Trees exploded from cannon blasts. Screams pierced the darkness, and then, mercifully, came silence. The third day dawned under a heavy sky. Carrion birds circled overhead. The heat was unbearable. Flies swarmed the bodies. Soldiers stared across the empty fields toward the enemy. No one spoke. At 1 p.m., the Confederate artillery opened fire. Over 150 cannons thundered across the valley. Shells ripped through trees, horses, men. The ground shook for 2 hours. Smoke turned the afternoon to dusk. Then came Pickett's charge. 12,000 Confederate infantrymen stepped from the tree line. They advanced shoulder to shoulder across a mile of open ground. Union cannons opened fire. Gaps exploded in the marching line. Men fell by the hundreds. Still they came. Through the fences, up the slope, over the stone wall. Some reached the Union line. For a moment, the tide seemed ready to turn. And then it broke. The survivors stumbled back across the field, bloody and broken. Over 50,000 men were dead, wounded, or missing when the battle ended. Farmhouses filled with amputees. Churches overflowed with corpses. The wounded screamed for water. Mothers searched for sons who would never come home. The grass was slick with blood. The scent of death clung to the air for weeks. At the edge of a field, a wounded drummer boy cried out for his father, his body torn open by shrapnel. He died before help arrived. Elsewhere, a surgeon worked for 36 hours without sleep, his apron soaked red. He used a hacksaw and whiskey. When he finally collapsed, the floor was littered with limbs. Months later, Lincoln would stand among the graves and speak of a new birth of freedom. But at Gettysburg, freedom had come at a cost no nation should ever forget. It did not end the war, but it changed it. Lee would never again take the offensive. And for those who survived, The images would never fade. Men screaming into the night, boys dying in the arms of strangers, the thunder of cannon fire rolling over the hills. Gettysburg was more than a battle. It was a reckoning. Thank you for listening to Last Post History. Subscribe for more true stories from the world at war.